So for our next interview, I wanted to bring on Peter from Reservoir. A lot of you may know him, or you may have used Reservoir, or you may have used it without knowing that you've used it. But we're going to cover a lot of the history of how the NFT ecosystem has evolved from an infrastructure level. And Peter has been in the middle of all of this. So without further ado, let's welcome Peter on stage, and we'll go discuss some cool things happening in the world of information and multiple chains.
Thank you.
Welcome, Peter. One thing I'm kind of super excited to talk about here is that you've been in this space for a handful of number of years, and you've kind of seen all the common stages of where we've gone from crypto to the things that have worked and definitely not worked. So the kind of thing I want to have you tell the audience is just overall take us back to 3 or 4 years ago and walk us through what the NFT ecosystem was like, and kind of especially from the infrastructure perspective. Like, what made you start Reservoir?
Cool. Yeah, I think the ecosystem was OpenSea, and that was it. Just extreme domination. Like, there was other marketplaces, like a lot of them shut down, and OpenSea kind of really took off. And actually, when we started, we kind of weren't. Reservoir today is a developer platform, but that wasn't kind of where we started. We started trying to build something around making it easier to buy and sell NFTs, and actually kind of going back further in history, kind of the evolution was originally thinking about social tokens, and realizing that those are kind of a terrible idea for every creator, every app to have their own token, and this kind of realization that NFTs were like a much more appropriate. But yeah, there was just like extreme domination of OpenSea, which was ironic because, you know, you have this new primitive on open rails, decentralized, but all the liquidity was in one marketplace's database. It was all off-chain signed orders in a single database somewhere. And we wanted to come and build something, but we realized like we were up against that. If everyone's just going to go to OpenSea to kind of do their buying and selling, if we have liquidity over here, even if there's better prices, kind of getting people to use that would be a challenge. And so that kind of pushed us in this direction of, what does OpenSea have? All of these pieces around indexing, order book, potentially aggregating liquidity from many places. This difficult infrastructure, basically going and building a developer platform to really unlock kind of a broad, like the vision was, there's these open rails, you should have many marketplaces, vertical marketplaces. You should have, like in your wallet, it can be pulling in, and know what assets you have. But I can just kind of buy something within that experience in my social feed. Oh, that's an interesting item that my friend just bought. I click the button and I buy it. Kind of none of this was possible. Like the NFT primitive is kind of interesting. And thanks Roham for the kind of 720C core primitive. But like on its own, like there's no liquidity. So then there's like protocols like Seaport. Many applications.
Like making that information easy to understand is kind of the hard part, because the assets on some wallet and it's on chain and you can query that, but you're kind of saying that being able to say, for given this wallet address, what did they own, or given this NFT collection, give me all the images, or who owns that. It's just the actual data as an API.
Yeah, and especially the off-chain data, like what is the price of this? You can't query that on-chain. It's actually in OpenSea's database, or maybe you have to check Blur and OpenSea and a pseudo-swap pool and kind of 5 other places to know like
how hard was collecting all of that and making that streamlined as a process? Because if anything, in the last 2 years, we got way more marketplaces, way more protocols, and a lot more chains trying small different variations of each other. how do you kind of think about designing a tool that makes that still simple for everybody else to use?
Yeah, I think the kind of North Star is abstraction, right? So like even the NFTs themselves, you have 721C, you have 1155, but maybe a developer just wants to treat them all as an item. And they also want to know what is the cost of that item. So you can have a pseudo swap pool that has like a certain amount of liquidity, so you know like the next price that you can buy that item, and then you have an off-chain listing in OpenSea's database. And so we kind of abstract that all to like this item is on this sale, this collection has these items in it. So it's really all about abstracting that complexity, both at like the core like information level, like what do people actually care about, which is usually just like what is the item, how much does it cost, and then how do I buy it, and like generating the call data to execute that, all of those like underlying pieces we abstract and do these really nice things where we have this kind of fully abstracted system where we can loop through steps. You just say, I want to buy it, and you might need to make an approval. You might need to transfer something. So all of those, like, you might need to sign a message. All of that can be kind of abstracted, and you're just saying, I want to buy, and we kind of help you make that happen.
We're still at the infrastructure level, so maybe one kind of question, maybe to put you all on the spot, is give us a scale for kind of how big is this service and this utility? Are there any kind of stats you can share? Can we talk about who's using it, or how popular it is, or the amount of stuff that you index? What can we learn about the size of this ecosystem?
Yeah, like you said, it's changed a lot from the days of just OpenSea and goal in like building that developer platform to enable many marketplaces. And so yeah, we have a number of different products. We do all of that kind of data indexing. And so we have a lot of the big wallets, kind of MetaMask, Coinbase Wallet, Rainbow. So yeah, if you've ever used the feature where it kind of tells you, you have an offer on your NFT and you can just, accept it straight from your wallet, that is us under the hood. And then we have a full marketplace as a service, which Magic Eden is using today on their which I think we're going to get into more recently, have, you have the NFTs are the goods, but you need money to buy the goods, and that money is increasingly fragmented. And so this has been the kind of latest product that we've been working on, is like, how do you make it easier to buy things across chain and move money across chain with this new product, Relay?
First of all, that's awesome that majority of the major wallets and marketplaces are kind of using the simplified version of that same information from Reservoir, and you don't really get to see that because nobody associates kind of APIs and tooling service to be the actual underlying. Obviously, the big part here is going into what Relay is, and the thing I guess I'm curious about is, first of all, let's tell people what Relay is, and secondly, how did this even become a product from a company that has NFT data?
Yeah, I think it comes from like the Ethereum rollup kind of roadmap. Like the way to scale Ethereum is kind of with rollups, and so you have more chains, and I think that's a good thing. The on-chain game, they were using Arbitrum Nova chain, very cheap chain, everything was good, and then somebody else decided to use that chain, and all of a sudden kind of their gas costs kind of 5x'd overnight, and like you just can't have that. So this idea of having your own block space while still kind of getting some of the security, some of the interoperability benefits may
clarify this for me. Is fragmentation to you the same side of aggregation, or is that a different thing altogether, the way you think about making sense of all the different chains, marketplaces, and data out there?
Yeah, I think they're products of each other, and I think fragmentation is you get kind of complexity, fragmentation, and so then you pull it back. Aggregation is kind of the solution to have both diverse kind of interesting things happening, but then like pull the complexity back. And so like, one way that I've framed it in the past is you kind of, like the building block analogy where you have something that like the 721 token is this like nice foundation that you can build all these building blocks on top of, like exchanges, like wallets, able about Reservoir, kind of aggregating what liquidity exists, what assets people have and they own. We can kind of build another floor, another like simple to use floor for the next layer of like applications that, like a wallet that wants to surface things, like someone that wants to build a more vertical marketplace but doesn't want to have to kind of build a lot of the infrastructure themselves. Like their expertise is their game or their music, and like that's what they want to focus on. So
thanks for clarifying. So I'll let you get back to it. So what is Relay?
Yeah, so we got pulled into it because there's just many chains, and increasingly you want to buy things on the many chains. And I think one of the realizations for us was that there will be assets and apps on many chains, and this is a good thing, but people don't want to have money on every chain. That's very, inconvenient to we're just too slow and too fast. Cost so that it